There's a lot to know before you actually retire early. What do I do about health insurance? What about tax planning? How should I be invested? There's a lot of different things and it quickly becomes overwhelming, but this is going to be your financial guide to retiring early with confidence, specifically regarding the investment aspect. I have separate videos where I talk about health insurance, where I talk about tax planning, where I talk about estate planning, including, by the way, when I say estate planning, some of you go, hey, I don't want to die with $5-10 million. A lot of you, in fact. I don't want you to either, but I want you to know how much you can spend and still make sure you're going to be okay. And if you have no children, that you're not leaving too much behind because you don't have specific heirs you want to pass it to. At the same time, if you do have children or charities, that you know exactly how to pass it to them most effectively. So everything regarding an early retirement is what I love talking about. If this is exactly what you're looking for, I invite you to subscribe. I do everything early retirement related so you can retire early with total confidence. My name is Taublieb. I'm a certified financial planner, host of the Early Retirement Podcast, and vice president here at Root. The first thing is when you're thinking about an early retirement, I just do not want you to get unlucky. What does that mean? There's something called recency bias, and a lot of us are subject to this, whether we know it or not, and we think about it, but it's very rare that we actually take action on it. For example, US large caps, the S&P 500, this is what's done really, really well the last 10 years. And so a lot of people talk about this, the heavy tech stocks, the Apple, the Netflix, the Google, the Meta, going, hey, these are really strong companies. And so if they've done really well, they're probably a large portion of your portfolio. And the risk is if they don't do well, now that's potentially impacting your retirement. At the same time, it's put you in a position where you can retire. So too many people simply go, yep, this has worked really well. I'm going to always do that moving forward. There's a real risk to that. Now I'm going to show you a real life example right now on the screen here. What you're looking at right here, this is, you can see me right here on the screen in the lower left. You can see this is really a really nice graph to show you the risk. So let me explain this in perfect English. One client came to me and they said, Ari, I want to retire early at 73. I said, that doesn't sound so early. They said, that's right. I'm retiring again because I want to make sure I do it right this time. So this particular client, they had the majority of their investments in the S&P 500. And so you can see down here, the little yellow line here, that's the United States. All these other lines, this is Colombia, Czech Republic, Brazil, Russia. And so the US was actually the fourth worst performer and actually had a negative 3% average return from 2000 to 2010. So this particular client retired early, and not only were markets going down, but they had to pay for health insurance, they were traveling, they were doing things they wanted to do. And this subjected them to actually have to go back to work because they did not have a diverse portfolio. If they just would have had more assets elsewhere, not trying to hit a home run, they would have been in a very different position where they probably wouldn't have ever had to go back to work. Why am I showing you this? Well, what if that particular client just got lucky? Well, if they got lucky, I probably would have never heard from them, because what happened is if they had the exact same mix they had, but just not in 2000, 2010, but 2010 and 2020, the US was the second best performer. The US did really well, and they had a heavy S&P 500 portfolio. And so it's done really, really well the last 10 years, which is what causes us to go, hey, I think I should keep this in my portfolio. The risk is, what if the next 10 years aren't the good 10 years? Well, am I going to have to go back to work? What does that mean for the portfolio? So some people pause and they go, Ari, you hate the US, don't you? I go, no. They go, oh, you love it then. I go, no, I don't hate or love it. I just want to make sure no matter what, you are bulletproofing your retirement so you can do what you want to do. I don't care if the US does well or doesn't do well. I just don't want that impacting your ability to retire. So the first thing I need you to do is bulletproof your portfolio so no matter what happens, you are okay. The second thing I need you to do is really consider health insurance. Too many people go, oh my gosh, where's health insurance going to come from? I'm not going to retire early. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go, yep, I understand I need a plan for it. I just need to know how much do I cost. Now, if you're working with us here at Root, we have a health insurance expert that's helping our clients. But if you're simply on your own going, hey, how do I even think through this? What should I do? We have a lot of resources. I even have kind of an ebook where I go through this in more detail. But the premise for you to know is you have an opportunity and you can say, wow, I'm going to retire at, call it 55. Where on earth is health insurance going to come from now until 65? And you can intentionally keep your income really low to qualify for a subsidy where the government literally pays for your health insurance. That can sound amazing, and a lot of people gravitate towards that. At the same time, you might want to actually benefit from Roth conversions and it might be a whole lot more impactful. So I did a long case study going over this right here. If that's of interest, you can check that out. So number 2 is health insurance. Number 3 is really making sure that you have enough. How much is enough? I have a client with $500,000. They're in an amazing spot to retire. I have another client with $10 million and they're nowhere close to retiring. How could that be the case? The client with $500,000, they have a pension. That pension covers all of their needs. So if that $500,000 is fluctuating, it's not necessarily fun, but they're going to be okay. Versus my client with $10 million, if they want to spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month in retirement, which isn't a bad thing, well, now it becomes a whole lot more stressful because what if markets are down and there's health insurance and they're traveling and they're spending an amount that's not sustainable? Well, to me, it's whether you have a 10 million, 500,000, 2 million, that doesn't mean you're in a good or bad spot. It's dependent on how much you want to spend in retirement and do you have the income to support that. From there, I always say this dopey joke, which is one client came to me and they said, "Hey, Ari, I think I'll be one of your best clients." I said, "Why is that?" They said, "Well, I have a really low withdrawal rate, which means I don't need to take a lot out of my portfolio and I've got like $5 million. So like I'm good." I said, "You'll probably be one of my worst clients." They're like, "What do you mean? I thought that was really good." I go, "If you want to be really good, go work 30 more years. Your plan will look amazing." That's not the goal here. The goal is actually to have the highest withdrawal rate without running the risk of running out of money. I don't want you to be in your 80s going, "Hey, why didn't you tell me I could have easily spent more? I have my energy, I have my health, I want to do these things." At the same time, I don't want you to overspend. So I almost want you to think about it like going bowling, where a lot of you are going bowling, and if your investments don't do well, it's like hitting a gutter ball. If they do really well, it's like hitting a strike. But there's a cheat code, and the cheat code is putting those bumpers up, where no matter what happens, here's the most I can spend when markets are doing this. Here's the minimum that my advisor or I'm going to let myself spend because I told myself, yep, here's what I want to have happen. And if markets do X, Y, Z, here's how I'm going to change for that. So that's the kind of third main one I want to talk about. And then finally, there's the financial answer to life and the kind of real life answer. And so some clients come to me and they're like dying to pay off their mortgage. And I can tell, and sometimes it won't make a big difference in terms of their long-term plan and their ability to retire. I'll say, here, let me quantify the trade-off so you can understand the magnitude of this decision. Watch what happens here. And we'll show them planning projections. And you can see I have a lot of different case studies where I go over these specific examples. And they'll go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know I was in a good spot to retire early. This is awesome. Yeah, I'm going to pay off that mortgage. Yeah, I know it could do better if I invested it, but I'm just going to sleep better. It's one less expense. I'm doing it." Other people go, "Hey, no matter kind of what you say, I just want to do the financial answer. So if you tell me I should just pay the minimum to the mortgage and invest the rest, I'll do that." That's kind of the financial answer and the real life answer. The next level here is really the tax planning. And the tax planning, this is what most people overlook because you have an amazing opportunity. You can go, "Wow, this is awesome. I'm going to retire. My income is going to be low. I'm going to be sailing." What I want you to do is I want you to go, "Wait a second. Can I be proactive during these times?" Maybe implement something like a Roth conversion where you intentionally pay a little bit in taxes to avoid paying a lot in taxes in the future. I have a silly cauliflower example that I share where I want you to eat a little bit of vegetables so that you're not forced to eat only vegetables in the future. Those vegetables in the future, those are RMDs, required minimum distributions. And I want to make sure that you're not worried about paying a ton of taxes in the future. So hopefully this video is helpful, giving you some insight, a guide to thinking through an early retirement. There's a lot more to this, such as what are you going to actually do in retirement? How can you think through this? If you want to hear from my clients who actually retired early, they had way more time actually when they were working than when they retired. So you can see I actually interviewed them. I brought them on the show, and you can watch this right there if you want a long interview to hear it from them as opposed to just hearing it from me. Hopefully this video was helpful. Please do subscribe and like this video for more content just like this.